Cool. So the two questions that I have planned for today are two questions from ethics. Now, ethics is a compulsory question in your paper, but it's not tested the way ethics in AAA are tested. Mostly, they will give you a situation, and naturally, the accounting treatment that they have done, or the presentation they have done, or the disclosures that they have done, those would be incorrect, right? Or there would be some other internal control related issue hoga, या somebody is creating an undue influence on somebody, ऐसा कुछ situation होगा आपका, ठीक है? So what you will have to realize is कि you have to find a way out. When I say you have to find a way out, what does that mean? There are certain ethical challenges that the situation will present to you. Now, the five fundamental ethical principles: integrity, objectivity, professional competence and due care, professional behavior, and confidentiality. These are the five fundamental ethical principles. Out of these, apart from confidentiality, usually the other four will always be in question, as in it will be an untruthful presentation in the financial statements, which means there are integrity issues, or the treatment has to be done as per IFRS 16, but the person has recorded a rent to cash entry. So then you will question the professional competence or the knowledge of the person. So this way, what we'll have is we'll have a whole list of situations in front of us where these fundamental ethical principles will be in question. Confidentiality usually SBR के पेपर में क्वेश्चन मार्क नहीं होता है. Confidentiality is usually not a problem in these situations. In rare cases, even that has been the problem. So what you have to do is you have to read the narrative. You have to first of all understand the ethical issue. Okay. Then, if possible, you have to identify what threat does it create for you. Once you understand what ethical threat is created, is it a self-interest threat? Is it a self-review threat? You will have to understand that. And if required, the question might expect you, if at all it is specifically mentioned, what can you do to reduce the threat to an acceptable level? Even that can be a sub part of the question. Now, in a 20-mark question in ethics, 10 to 12 marks is ethics, 8 marks is basically some other accounting standard. Okay. Now in these, so ethics part is only 10 to 12 marks, although the question is for 20. Ethics ka part 10 to 12 marks ka hi hota hai. Remaining part is on some other accounting standard. Now the accounting standards which are frequently tested, that have been tested in the past, revenue test hua hai, financial instruments has been tested, segment reporting has been tested, revenue though is a hot favorite in this particular area. Then leases pe they have asked questions, or basic impairment ho gaya, intangibles ho gaya. So basically knowledge of all accounting standards is required in order to tackle an ethics question. Okay, we'll read the first question. There are two questions I have planned for today. One is a December 22 question. The other one is it's a June 23 question. Both of them very, very interesting. So let's go through that and understand how to tackle these questions in the paper. I always recommend that you should start your paper with question 2 ethics. It's usually the easiest of all the four questions that are given to you because it's straightforward. एक syntax है, वही syntax आपको follow करना है. I'll also give you a standard approach, but it's not necessary that exactly same steps have to be followed. You will have to decide based on facts of the case. Okay. Now, discuss whether revenue from the service phase and the grant of a license to a customer are separate performance obligations or a single performance obligation. This doesn't look like a question from ethics. Discuss whether the revenue should be recognized at a point in time in accordance with IFRS 15. Now, the operative verb here is discuss, which means you will have to look at the facts of the case and understand that and make commentary on that with reference to the accounting standard. Points in favor, points against, if there are. When they are saying discuss whether the revenue should be recognized at a point in time, what they mean is you first of all, you should know when is revenue recognized at a point in time. Then you should apply that knowledge to the facts of this case, and then you should come to a conclusion. Explain the ethical issues for the finance director, Mr. Betso, setting out how the issues may be resolved. And unlike other P-level papers, there are only 4 professional marks in SBR, out of which 2 marks are for the ethics question. Professional marks will be awarded in Part B for the quality of discussion regarding the resolution of ethical issues. हाँ? Professional marks आपको मिलने वाला है for resolution of ethical issues, which means you have to speak about the solution that you will give in the current set of circumstances. Now, Jassie Company operates in the oil and gas industry. The current financial year end of Jassie Company is 31st of December 2007. The following exhibits available below provide information relevant to the question. Granting of licenses describes the process of granting licenses to customers. Ethical issues describes the potential ethical issues surrounding the working practices of the finance director. Now, Jassie Company provides services to customers to help them evaluate whether there are potential oil reserves in a particular geographical region. Customers generally enter into the contract before the survey process commences. So you sign the contract before Jassie Company starts the survey and exploration of oil and eventually purchase a license to search for oil deposits. During the service phase, Jassie Company collects site data over the first year of the contract, then processes and analyzes this data over the next 6 months. So from the date you enter into the contract, the first year will be spent on data collection, next 6 months will be spent on analysis. मतलब 18 months लग रहा है आपको in overall. The area surveyed is determined by Jassie Company, who is the only decision maker and the owner of both the data and the land being surveyed. So Jassie Company owns the land also, Jassie Company owns the data also. All of the data is made available to customers in the final survey report. Customers cannot process the data or obtain a license other than by Jassie Company's approval. The value to the customer is in the granting of the license and not in the data. As data is being collected and processed, presentations and reports are given to customers to indicate the potential of an area. So आप data collect करेंगे and you will give a presentation to the customer who has entered into a contract with you, which will talk about how much potential the data has and how much potential the land has, whether you can do oil exploration or not. Customers have ongoing access to the data during collection and processing. It's not as if customers get data after the entire survey is done. As the survey keeps on getting updated, maybe they have been given a dashboard और वो dashboard में data आपका update हो रहा है. ठीक है. When the final report is made available, the customer decides whether to invest in the area. Okay, then granting of license. The customers can exit the contract on the receipt of the report, but the total price of the contract, including the price of the final license, is still payable to Jassie Company. In practice, no customer leaves the contract at this stage. The license is granted at this stage, and once the license has been granted, there is no further analysis or service provided to the customer. The directors of Jassie Company concluded that the company has only one performance obligation, being the granting of license at the end of a survey. This is because the collection and processing of the data is a component of the granting of the license and cannot be distinguished from the license. In addition, the service phase alone is of no benefit on its own. The final license provided to the customer is based on the data collected and processed during the service phase. Question ka expectation. First of all, please understand. The question wants you whether revenue from the service phase and grant of a license should be treated as two separate performance obligations, or are they just one single performance obligation? You have to comment on that. See, a performance obligation can be considered separate if you can perform that obligation separately, as in you can perform that obligation individually without the need to bundle it with the other one. Okay, so I can sell coaching of SBR separately. I can sell uh, test series for SBR separately. It is not necessary for me to sell it together. Okay, when is a commodity or a service distinct? If the customer can get the benefit from the commodity or service on its own or together with other resources that are available with the customer. And these items, when I say they are separate performance obligations, they have to be distinct from each other. They should not be embedded or dependent upon each other. ठीक है. अब यहाँ पे एक बार ऑब्जर्व करो what is happening. Can you provide the two services separately, or they are so closely interconnected that they will make sense only when sold together and not individually? That is what you have to evaluate. Do you need to give it together, or is together the only way to go ahead, or you can sell the two services separately also?
So
For that,
together. So two separately you can.
okay. एक बार पढ़ो तो, read the service phase and the granting of license phase. Read it carefully once. There are certain clues in the second part. ये पहले पढ़ो, then I'll show you the second part. देख लिया?
Yes, sir.
Look at this. The first para here contains a very important clue. The first para says customers can exit the contract on receipt of the report, but the total price of the contract, including the price of the final license, is still payable to Jassie company. So whether you avail the license or not, or whether you actually start exploration on the land or not, you will still have to pay the price for license. What is the expectation? The expectation is to provide both the surveying function and then the license, which means here they cannot be bought or sold on a standalone basis. They have to be availed together. Even if you decide, I don't want to do oil exploration in this area, once the report is ready, you have to pay for the license regardless of whether you actually do drilling activities or not. And the final license that is provided to the customer, do you agree that it is dependent on the data collected and processed during the course of the service phase? The granting of license depends upon the data that was collected in the service phase, right? To get the license, you are dependent on data. Just having the data is not enough. As standalone, the data will serve no purpose. So, data without license means nothing. And once you have the data, you have to pay for the license. So the data obtained during the service phase and the license are interrelated, interdependent, and they are not separate from each other. When you answer and when you tell me that, they can be sold separately, it is your understanding of what the service phase and what the license phase is, right? आपने आपका अंडरस्टैंडिंग लगाया कि in one phase data is collected and in the other phase license is granted. So the way I understand how the human world works, I am giving this answer. They are two separate points. That is not, this will fetch you 0 marks in the paper. Please pay attention to what they have given in the question. In the question, they have specifically mentioned that even after the data is ready, even if you don't want to do the drilling or oil exploration, you still have to pay for the license. So that is not separate. That is very much embedded or interlinked with each other. And at the same time, the license depends on the data. License, to reach the license stage, you need the data. So license depends on data. And once you have the data, you will have to buy the license. So you cannot separate the two from each other. You cannot say, I will just buy the data. Buying just the data is of no use to you. Now, uska aap kya karoge? And once you have the data, you have to buy the license, right? So these 2 points are completely interlocked. They are interdependent on each other, which is why you don't have two separate performance obligations. You have a single performance obligation. Separate performance obligation कब होता? If both the services can be, or both the activities are completely disconnected from each other, or a situation where you can buy, say for example, the question said that you can buy just the data and then you can sell the data to someone else and make money. That means it can be bought and it is capable of being bought and sold separately. यहाँ पे you can't just have the data. उसका आप क्या करोगे? The data and the land both belong to Jassie company. So a customer has to take both from the Jassie company. Just buying the data is not doing you any favors, which is why the two activities are heavily interconnected with each other. And the moment two activities are interconnected and completely dependent on each other, you cannot classify them as separate performance obligations. These will be a single performance obligation, and that is because of the interdependence of the data collection and process and analysis phase with the granting of the license phase. See, This is because collection and processing of data is a component of the granting of license, yes, and cannot be distinguished from the license. You cannot separate it out. It has to move hand in hand. It has to move together. Service phase alone is of no benefit on its own. So, all these lines that are given to you, they are basically straight away clues to take you to the final answer, which basically wants to point out that you have a single obligation, not multiple performance obligations. ठीक है अब how is this written? So you are dealing with IFRS 15, right? What is a performance obligation? Mention the standard. If you don't mention, that is also okay. ACCA doesn't have that expectation from you that you should quote the standard number. So if you write it correctly. Otherwise, don't. Don't say IFRS 15 revenue recognition. That is not the name of the standard. What is the name of the standard? Revenue from contract with customer. A performance obligation is a promise to transfer distinct goods or services. By the way, in your exam, you have the capability to highlight certain points, right? आप bold bold कर सकते हो. Don't do it unless you have time. ठीक है. A good or a service is distinct if a customer can benefit from the good or service either on its own or together with other resources that are readily available to the customer. As in, with resources that I have, I can make use of the item that you have provided me standalone. Okay. Uh, is sep- the entity's promise to deliver goods or services is separately identifiable from other promises in the contract. These are provisions of the standard. As in, what does the standard say? According to IFRS 15, when is a commodity or a service distinct? Remember one thing, nobody expects you to reproduce this word for word. ठीक है? Nobody expects you to do that. As long as what you are conveying is using formal words and conveys the same meaning, you will get marks. ठीक है. So whenever you are framing the answer, always write provisions of the standard first, followed by facts of the case. The customer contracted for a combined good or service which is bundled basically. The customer cannot exit the contract without paying for the license as well. Even if he exits, he still has to pay the price for license. The expectation is to provide both the surveying function and then the license. These cannot be bought or sold on a standalone basis. These have to be availed together. Now see, which words will fetch marks? Cannot be bought or sold on a standalone basis. Have to be availed together. Now, see, the word standalone is very important. Avoid using the word separate. ACCA will grant you marks when they observe these specific words in your answer. And at P level, this is the basic expectation here. You should know that a word called standalone exists. ठीक है. The customer, see these facts of the case now, you can copy paste also from the question. Okay. How? In the exam, uh, the customer cannot exit the contract, but the total price, including the price of the final license, is still payable. इसको copy करो and paste it in your answer. See, I have an image. मैंने JPG डाला है तो I can't copy, but you will be able to copy. So copy that particular part. That will save time. See, it's a 96 marks paper. Huh? You have to be smart on time. Copy the facts of the case, no problem. Analysis part you type on your own. Then, final license provided to the customer relies on the data collected and processed during the course of the service phase. To get the license, we are dependent on data. Just having the data is not enough, as the data standalone serves no purpose. No, and data without the license has no relevance. And to get the license, you need the data. Right. So the data obtained during the service phase and the license are highly dependent on each other and are not separate. Okay. This is facts of the case and analysis, but I haven't concluded here. Conclude that separately. So these are not separate performance obligations. The conclusion carries marks. If you don't write this part separately, see, question में क्या पूछा है? They have asked you discuss whether it is a separate performance obligation or a single performance obligation. तो लिखना चाहिए ना. If they have asked you whether it is separate or not, writing all of this but not writing this means you are losing one full mark. So make sure that you conclude on every answer. ठीक है. For that, reading the requirement is very important. एक बार go through this from under IFRS 15 to here. एक बार पढ़ो इसको. Done, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I mean, we have done, see, we haven't done a question on ethics, but we have done something similar. Provisions of the standard, facts of the case, and then the conclusion. Right? Okay. Now, while the customer does not have access to data or reports before the presentation is granted, see, while the customer does have access to the data or reports before the license is granted, there is no granting of license, and as such, the customer cannot act solely on the data in any way. The land is given to you after the entire survey is complete. Once the license is granted, there is no further analysis or service that is provided to the customer. That is, no obligation, promise, deliverable is pending to be done after the grant of the license. Consequently, revenue should be recognized when the license is granted and as a single performance obligation. ठीक है? So it has to be granted as a, it is, see, यहाँ पे specifically लिखा है ना, the directors of Jassie, they have concluded that there is only one performance obligation. Collection processing of data is a component of the granting of license, and the after that, after it is given to us, sorry, after it is given to the customer, no further analysis or services provided, which means the performance obligation ends on the granting of the license. Nothing has to be done thereafter. Okay, this was the first part of the question. Second part said whether the revenue should be recognized at a point in time in accordance with IFRS 15 revenue from contract with customer. Now, यहाँ पे for revenue to be recognized over a period of time versus at a point in time, you should always evaluate over a period of time first. If you remember the sequence in which we did IFRS 15, we learned the conditions for satisfaction over a period of time first, then we went to satisfied at a point in time. There are three conditions that you need to keep in mind. The service is simultaneously consumed or enjoyed by the customer as the a service provider performs it, or you construct, I'm telling you in simple words, I'm not repeating the exact words of the accounting standard. The service provider's performance or the provider's performance creates an asset जिसका control goes to the customer as the asset is constructed or made, right? Or the provider or the seller, he creates an asset which does not have an alternative use to the entity, right? And he has an enforceable right to collect payments for the work completed up to date. In short, these are the three conditions which, even if one of these is fulfilled, you will say that the performance obligation is satisfied over a period of time. यहाँ पे very clearly, see, if you observe the words of the question, what have they said? The license is granted at this stage, and once the license has been granted, there is no further analysis or service provided to the customer. Okay, now customers, acha, they have written one more point. Okay, what is that? As data is being processed and collected, presentations are given to customers to include the potential of the area. Customers have ongoing access to the data during collection and processing. When the final report is available, the customer decides whether to invest in the area or not. While he can see the data, but the final conclusion is delivered only when the analysis is complete, right? While the customer does have access to data before the license is granted, there is no granting of license, and as such, the customer cannot act solely on the data in any way. भले ही उसके पास data जा रहा होगा, the data by itself is not of any value because the final value is in granting of the license, and granting of a license happens at a point in time. Control is transferred at a point in time. So this is a performance obligation satisfied at a point in time and not over a period of time. ठीक है, this is a performance obligation satisfied at a point in time, not over a period of time, which is why the answer to this part, whether the revenue should be recognized at a point in time, the answer is yes, because control effectively, even if you have access to the data, you can view the data, you can view the presentation, Just viewing that is not giving you any monetary benefits, right? It is not giving you anything. The real value comes when the license is granted to you. यहाँ पे लिखा है ना, the value to the customer is in the granting of the license and not in the data. And that granting of license happens at a point in time when the collection of data, analysis of data is complete. Then it is data, full data is ready, and only then the license can be granted, which happens at a point in time, not over a period of time. ठीक है, एक बार इसको पढ़ो. I have broken it down into simple terms for you to understand.
Done, sir.
Done? Okay. Chalo. Is everyone with me in terms of how the framing is done? Plus, now this is a tricky question. Huh? It's not something that ऐसे ही चलते चलते you won't be able to do it. You'll have to understand the fine nuance, the way the question is constructed. The second part of the question is equally interesting. This is where the ethics वाला part comes in. See, this was for 8 marks. यहाँ पे कुछ भी ethics का नहीं था. This part is for 12 marks. Okay. Mr. Shah, can you read the ethical issues वाला thing?
Yes, sir. Jassie company uses big data analytics and various algorithms in order to indicate the potential of finding oil in a particular geographical location. The chief data officer understands the science and statistics and can explain outcomes simply and clearly to customers. The finance director, Mr. Betso, who is ACCA qualified, has little knowledge of the technology involved. He feels that the technology used is too complex and there is no need for him to understand it as long as the chief data officer understands it. The chief data officer reports to the finance director. Recently, the outcome of one set of data showed that there was little chance of oil being found on one of the sites, but the finance director insisted that the data was run again to include historical data, which would then indicate a more favorable outcome for a customer oleo company. Mr. Betso has a friend, Miss Stylos, who works as the accountant at Oleo Company. Miss Stylos has asked Mr. Betso for an advice as to how to account for the license granted to Oleo Company. Mr. Betso suggested that Miss Stylos use IFRS 16 leases as it is a right to use license. In addition, Mr. Betso knew that Miss Stylos held shares in Oleo Company and suggested to her that the share price of Oleo Company was likely to fall because there was a little chance of oil being found as a result of the granting of the license.
क्या नेपोटिज्म कर रहा है देखो ये, अपने फ्रेंड को हेल्प कर रहा है. दिस इज बैड बॉय बिहेवियर. Jassie company uses data analytics and various algorithms in order to indicate the potential of finding oil in a particular area. The chief data officer understands the science and statistics and can explain outcomes simply and clearly to customers. The finance director, Mr. Betso, who is ACCA qualified, has little knowledge of the technology involved. He feels that the technology is too complex and there is no need for him to understand it as long as the CDO understands it. The chief data officer reports to the finance director. Recently, the outcome of one set of data showed that there was a little chance of oil being found on one of the sites. But the finance director insisted that the data was run again to include historical data, which would indicate a more favorable outcome for a customer oleo company. एक तो first set of survey has told you that there is very little chance of finding oil. What he is saying is increase the sample size, go even more in the past, so that you can hopefully see a more favorable outcome. Basically, he's trying to fool the customer. You show, say, for example, think about if, say, I have a particular set of results. Now, there is a faculty whose results in the last 2-3 quarters haven't been that great, but he wants to attract customers or whatever that situation is. So he will, if you show only the results of the last 4 quarters, maybe it is not so impressive. The students will decide not to join this person. But what if he shows the results of last 16 quarters? Naturally, the number will show a more positive trend, and that might induce people to join. Correct? So, but his performance, ideally, students are evaluating on the basis of the most recent results. And he, instead of showing the most recent results only, he's extending the sample size and going even older, even beyond. This is why is this happening? This is happening in order to fool the customers. So again, I see a major ethical challenge here. There is a problem. There is a problem here also. The chief data officer reports to the finance director. Okay. And finance director doesn't understand the work that is happening. And he doesn't understand data. He doesn't understand the science behind it. Now, there is a, see, when I evaluate someone's work, I should know about that work, right? If I cannot evaluate how well someone has played cricket, because I don't know, I just don't know cricket. मुझे नहीं आता है, मुझे फुटबॉल नहीं समझ में आता है. आई कांट से ओ दिस इज अ ग्रेट प्लेयर एंड दैट इज नॉट. Similarly, if I am somebody who is the chief data officer reports to me, right? So chief data officer knows everything, but I don't know what he does. I don't have the knowledge of that technology. So I won't be able to judge the outcome that he has prepared, which means I cannot evaluate that properly. And if I cannot evaluate that properly, then there is a lack of professional competence at my end. I don't need to be an expert in that data, but I should know how to evaluate the outcome that he has given. Na? Otherwise, what is the point of having that person report to me? I am reporting to a person who doesn't understand ACCA at all. So how can he evaluate my work is my basic point. मैं जिसको आंसर दे रहा हूं, the person I am answerable to should know what my work involves. If he doesn't know what my work involves, don't you think it's very easy for me to just manipulate? मैं कुछ भी बोल सकता हूँ and it will still be accepted because उसे क्या पता. So somebody tells me something about data, I need to be in a position to evaluate that data. Only then it makes sense. Otherwise, क्या? Otherwise तो कोई भी बैठ जाएगा in that position. So here there is a problem of professional competence. Here I see an integrity issue. They are not being truthful. They are manipulating the data. Then Mr. Betso has a friend, Miss Stylos, who works as the accountant at Olio Company. Miss Stylos has asked Mr. Betso for advice as to how to account for the license granted to Olio. Mr. Betso suggested that Ms. Stylos uses IFRS 16 as it is a right to use license. Very clearly, this is not, IFRS 16 is not applicable here. It is IAS 38, na? This is an intangible asset. A license is an intangible. He is recommending her to use IFRS 16. मतलब ये बेवकूफ आदमी है. He doesn't understand accounting himself. He is giving wrong advice to her. That is not our problem. But if he is giving this advice to her, then don't you think he must have made similar mistakes when he is accounting for this company? When he is preparing this company ka financial statements, naturally, he must have done similar hera-feri. Who's to know? In addition, Mr. Betsu knew that Ms. Stylos held shares in Oleo and suggested to her that the share price is likely to fall because there was little chance of oil being found. Here, there is confidentiality issue. Information that you acquire during the course of performing your professional duties should not be disclosed. It has to be kept confidential. He is going and telling her, ये तो insider trading लग रहा है ना? You are telling your friend,
Yes, sir.
बेच दो. And then, of course, this is very clearly insider trading, right? तो शुभ शाह अपने फ्रेंड को बताने का नहीं, even if there is some problem with the data, right? So, I not just see, you have to be on the lookout for red flags. And here we could see very clearly at least 4 red flags, right? What were those 4 red flags? Red flag 1, the finance director does not understand data and the technology. So यहाँ पे मुझे professional competence का issue लगा. Here I saw integrity or lack of integrity. Here again, I saw lack of professional competence. भाई ये क्या करके खत्म करेगा कंपनी को अपने? And here I could see a confidentiality challenge. You have to elaborate. Now the answer again, these words are very important. Okay, you have to mention the word confidentiality. You have to mention the word lack of professional competence, because that is what will fetch you marks in the paper. The explanation can be in your own words. Yes, Mr. Shah.
Sir, there can be a familiarity threat because both of them are good friends and dealing with each other.
Okay, elaborate, please.
Like Mr. Stylos is the finance director, and his friend Miss Stylos is Mr. Betso is the finance director, and Miss Stylos is working as
Hmm.
an accountant at Olio company, which will be accounting for the lease that they will be taking, and
Hmm.
they are dealing with each other, and both of them are only working together. So there may be a familiarity threat in this, that both of them are adjusting each other.
Okay. See, familiarity threat is when, because of the equation between the two individuals, somewhere that has an impact on how the financial reporting is impacted, right? Or say because I am the auditor and you are my friend and I'm auditing your company and we are very good friends. So because of the personal equation between the two of us, the familiarity between the two of us, I might turn a blind eye to an obvious problem in the financial statements. Or I have been auditing your financial statements for so long that I think I know everything, so I don't pay attention to red flags even when they are visible to me. That is where familiarity threat comes in. यहाँ पे the two are connected and he is giving a wrong advice. That is a problem. But their connection has not resulted in something problematic for your financial statements. Has it? Your financial reporting, as in financial reporting of this company, Jassie company, is not impacted because you are best friends with that other person, right? That familiarity threat might come when, because of your equation, it impacts how the financial statements are prepared. वहां पे familiarity आएगा, यहाँ पे familiarity नहीं आएगा. ठीक है. Big data analytics and use of algorithms is critical to the success of the business. Finance director has little knowledge about the same. A chief data officer has been appointed who reports to the finance director. I'm repeating the facts in the question. I'm not doing anything else. The work of CDO cannot be effectively reviewed by the finance director due to his lack of knowledge. If you see lines 1 and 2, this is basically repeating points stated in the question. ठीक है. No analysis. Let me use some color so that you get that connection. Then impact of, or rather, uh, outcome of the problem. ये जो issue है, because of this, what has happened? The finance director, he cannot effectively review the data. Our problem is that he is unable to review the data. And then you mention that there is serious lack of professional competence and skills. This is the ethical issue that you are highlighting. This is what will fetch you marks. I will say highlight the specific ethical consideration. If you don't do that, you will lose 1 mark. ये बहुत important है. Knowing that is one thing, writing the words lack of professional competence, and this cannot be replaced with any other word. 1, 2, 3. You write in your own words, no problem. But here, lack of professional competence is the exact set of words you have to use, because that is the ethical principle that is being violated. Correct? Then, after the data was processed, the finance director asked the CDO to run the test again by including more data from the past. Now the outcome. Why was this done? This was done in order to indicate a more favorable outcome when in fact there is little chance of finding oil in the area. This shows a deep lack of integrity. You are not being truthful. You are a hopeless case. As the finance director is misrepresenting information in order to achieve certain outcome. The CDO reports to the finance director and he will feel pressured to achieve a certain outcome in the data even though it does not exist. Since manipulation of data for indicating certain results to the customer is self-interest serving behavior, and the finance director has lost all objectivity in the process. Now, why did I use the word self-interest serving behavior? See, if he gives a favorable report, there is a chance that the customer will end up signing up, right? See, ek to he doesn't have a choice, but it will tilt the outcome in his favor. So he can manipulate the financial statements. He will end up selling something to a customer when in fact that site is not worthy of being licensed out. And he wants to achieve a certain target, and that means he has lost all sense of objectivity in the process. ठीक है, lack of integrity and lost all objectivity. These are the points that should be highlighted. ठीक है, so when you are framing answers, you understand the situation. I don't think situation में problem is identifying the problem is a concern, that you will be able to, but focusing on these words, lack of integrity, self-interest, objectivity, aren't these words that I highlighted most in the ethics wala video? They have to come out in your answer. A lot of times people say, Sir, I wrote everything well. I don't know where I lost marks. You lost marks because you did not use certain specific words that you were supposed to use. These are those specific words. है ना? Then, finance director has told the employee at the client office to use IFRS 16 for licenses. Licenses are specifically excluded because they should be recorded as per IAS 38, subject to fulfillment of conditions. This indicates a severe lack of knowledge and skill on the part of the finance director. He does not appear to have enough professional competence. See, I did not focus on the word severe lack of knowledge and skill. I said does not have enough professional competence to do the job that he has been appointed for. This could also make us question about the correctness of other decisions he might have made. This is the effect, cause effect karna hai na apne ko. This is the effect, but highlighting lack of professional competence is critical. And the finance director also revealed certain confidential information that he had obtained during the course of his duties. Disclosure of such internal information might amount to insider trading and is a serious threat to confidentiality. Make sure that you highlight the problem. ठीक है? And this is what will fetch you marks. ठीक है? अब पढ़ो इसको एक बार. Read it carefully. See, I know you understand the situation. See how I have framed the answer. And I have this is not a copy paste of the answer at the back. I have tried to break it down into simpler terms for you. You can break it down even simpler, but make sure that these words are not missed out at any cost. Yes, Umaira.
So please explain the self-interest part.
Self-interest is basically working for an outcome which shows you in a better or a positive light. Here, if as the finance director, if you are able to show better profitability and higher revenue for the company, that will ultimately have, or that will ultimately increase your credibility in the organization, and people will, your chances of promotion, your chances of growth, and your overall management of the finances will be praised even further. Now, what he is doing is he is deliberately manipulating the data in order to basically prove to the world that he has been able to secure a certain outcome. He has been able to increase the sales of the company, but he is doing that by manipulating the data. So while there is no actual evidence or there is very little chance of oil being found, this manipulation of data is helping him to achieve a certain level of sale, which will show him in a better light, or which will show him in a positive light. And that is exactly what we are trying to point out.
Okay, so got it. Thank you.
वेलकम. ठीक है.
Done, sir.
But that is not all, because the question also specifically mentioned ethical issues को तो करना है, but you will also have to explain how are the ethical issues resolved. Now, how do you think should the ethical issues be resolved?
Sir, first of all, the finance director should have a proper knowledge of the work that he is supposed to overlook,
Hmm.
and there's the contact between this what Mr. Betso and Stylos should not be made in the very first thing. Matlab, there should be no contact between Mr. Betso and Miss Stylos.
Okay. Now, see, the issue has happened. We are not asking about preventive measures. We are now talking about अब क्या करना है. We are not talking about what should not have happened. We are now discussing what should happen in the future. First of all, the biggest problem is that Mr. Betso does not have the right kind of knowledge. है ना? So because of that, there could have been a deeper impact on the organization. So Mr. Betso should evaluate the extent of damage caused and the parties affected due to his lack of expertise. He should understand who should be involved in finding a resolution to the problems that he has caused. He could try to contact ACCA for guidance. He could take inputs from professional colleagues where necessary, and he should evaluate whether the board should be involved at this stage. And he should tell the board that, listen, because of my lack of knowledge, I think these issues have come up. So I think you should be aware of it, and he might have to consider stepping down from his position in the organization. Clearly, if he doesn't have the knowledge, then he is causing more damage to the organization than is than is acceptable. So in that case, it would be best if he resigns from the organization. Don't use the word resign. You should say he should consider his position in the organization. Should he continue? Should he not continue? And what is the extent of damage caused? And what is the possible solution that you could have to this problem? Okay. So that is the response to the ethical issues. The biggest problem is Mr. Betso's lack of knowledge. See, information has been passed on to this whatever friend of his. So उसका आप कुछ नहीं कर सकते.
So response is giving from the perspective of Mr. Bit. So should we give it from like company's perspective?
This is ultimately for the company only, na? And who is the one who is the perpetrator of most of these ethical issues? It is Mr. Betso, right? His lack of judgment, his lack of expertise is creating problems. You can mention from the company's perspective, but the onus is not on the company, the onus is on him. Because company might not know, company has entrusted him with or financial reporting and other activities. Company believes that he is the right person for the job, and company, because they don't have financial knowledge or accounting knowledge, they will believe whatever he says. The onus is on him to go and inform the company that, listen, I don't have the right technical knowledge, so XYZ damage could have been caused, these are the issues, and then you request it to highlight the then you highlight it to the company and then let the company take a call. But company wouldn't know unless Mr. Betso tells that I am the one who lacked the skill. Because company, for what it's worth, see, this person has the right professional qualification and everything, but bewakoof hoga. So, but no way for the company to judge that, na. So it is his onus. So his responsibility to go and inform the company, not anybody else's. ठीक है,
Okay.
चलो. Did you understand how an ethics question has to be dealt with? Of course, we'll be doing more such questions. But एक basic idea आपको how are questions tested in the paper?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, let's look at one more. छोटा सा है, this is not a big question. This is a small one. Discuss how the advancement of information technology impacts on the ethical responsibilities of the accountant. There is no requirement to refer to any exhibit when answering part A. Discuss the ethical issues faced by the accountant Mr. Ebrima and the internal auditor Mr. Franklin in Herding Company, and any actions they should take to address these issues. Professional marks will be awarded in part A and B for the quality of ethical discussion and identification of appropriate actions. Explain the possible effects of IAS 38 intangible assets and IAS 36 impairment on the accounting treatment of the purchase of Cutherd division's procurement system and development cost in the financial statements for the year ended 31st of December 2008. छोटा सा question है, as in it doesn't have too many, मतलब बहुत, exhibit is not long. Okay, Cutherd is a successful division within a multinational herding company. The financial year end of herding is 31st of December. The following exhibit available provides information relevant to the question. New system describes the purchase of an unauthorized procurement system by Cutherd division on 1st of August 2008 and the implications of that decision. This information should be used to answer the question requirements within the response option provided. New system, न्यू प्रोक्योरमेंट सिस्टम है, एंड देन अकाउंटेंट एंड इंटरनल ऑडिटर एंड देन प्रोक्योरमेंट कॉस्ट. ठीक है. In 2008, Hording Company upgraded its computerized systems and centralized its procurement processes. All divisions of Hording Company were required to use the same procurement system. However, on 1st of August 2008, the divisional head of the Cutherd division purchased a procurement system without authority, which is incompatible with other systems in Hording Company. Maybe Hording Company throughout uses SAP, and ये बंदे ने जाके खरीद लिया Tally. Like, that is where the incompatibility comes in. Plus, he did it without appropriate authority. He should have taken someone's approval. That approval only he did not take. ठीक है. This is a lapse of internal control. An approval mechanism and authorization system should have been in place. No person should be allowed to take a decision without getting the right approval, and yet he made a decision to buy a system without taking the authorization, and that system was incompatible with the other systems. The new system is specific to the Cutherd division and cannot be used by other divisions in Herding Company. Mr. Bookman has stated that the Cutherd division will use this new system to make purchases in the future rather than the company's centralized system. As a result of using the new system, the Cutherd division has developed a poor purchasing strategy, which has resulted in unfavorable pricing decisions. Even though the Cutherd division has made purchases with the new system, it is not fully operational because it is incompatible with the company's centralized systems. Okay, the accountant of Herding Company, Mr. Ebrima, is considering the impact of the poor purchasing decisions and how to improve the financial control. However, he does not wish to introduce controls which Mr. Bookman may feel are excessive because Mr. Bookman is a dominant individual who often puts pressure on him. Intimidation threat. Mr. Bookman is on the management committee of the holding to whom the internal auditor reports. Mr. Ebrima has reported his concerns to the internal auditor, who is a qualified member of ACCA and who is known to be a personal friend of Mr. Bookman. Now, the internal auditor reports to the board. Okay. And sorry, the internal auditor reports to Mr. Bookman, right? And Mr. Bookman A is a close friend, is a personal friend of Mr. Of the internal auditor. Because of that, there is familiarity threat. Plus, he is a dominant individual. So he can exercise influence on the internal auditor and he can exercise influence on the accountant. And because of that, certain issues with respect to incompatibility or other problems in the system, even though they are highlighted, they will not be resolved. Okay. Then, because of these interpersonal equations, somewhere the whole purpose or the whole intention is lost. है ना? The divisional head has purchased a new system. Mr. Bookman purchased the new system, by the way, without having the right authority. है ना? Now, bad, मतलब write down the impact of that. Poor purchasing strategy, unfavorable pricing decision, वो लिखो. Write down. See, you can't just say this is a bad strategy because or this is wrong because he did not have the necessary authorization. वो तो है problem. But even after that, see, after doing something in the wrong manner, if you are still achieving the right outcome, that's not acceptable, but that's still okay. Here, you are using the wrong approach, and that has led to control lapses in the system, that has led to unfavorable pricing decisions, that has led to poor purchasing strategy. ये तीनों आपको अच्छे से you will have to highlight. ठीक है. Now, he should see, because of that, there will be a financial impact in the financial statements. Okay, now if you do not highlight this issue as the accountant, your professional competence will be called into question, right? Ki you are noticing all of these points and yet you are not highlighting. Now, Mr. Ebrima, who is the accountant, he is being intimidated. There is an intimidation threat because Mr. Bookman is a dominant individual who is preventing him from discharging his professional responsibilities. And because it's an aggressive, dominant person, his objectivity might get impaired. He'll be like, "Yaar, kaun deal karega? Let me just say that there is no problem." And Mr. Ebrima should also calculate the financial impact of the action. And he should report the issue to the internal auditor or the management. And if he believes that management is also involved or management's integrity is in question, he should report the issue to those charged with governance. Okay. And that is not all. Mr. Franklin, see, the accountant has reported his concerns to the auditor, Mr. Franklin. The internal auditor is an ACCA member. So, in his capacity as an internal auditor, uska responsibility hai identify the causes for lapse of control. Why was the purchase allowed without authorization? Identify the financial impact. How deep is the risk? What can you do to prevent recurrence of that event? But this Mr. Franklin happens to be a close personal friend of Mr. Bookman, and because of that, he might get influenced by what Mr. Bookman is saying. The independence of the internal auditor is super important when he's performing his responsibilities. If he is getting influenced, if he is getting impacted, then what is the point of all of this? Right? So ultimately, who will suffer? The shareholders of the company will suffer. Other stakeholders will get impacted if he fails to discharge his responsibilities. So, internal auditor should not let his personal equation have an impact on the professional judgment. And he should ideally not report to Mr. Bookman. He should report his findings to the management committees, or he might consider stepping down from the engagement also. So, what was the question? The question was, discuss the ethical issues faced by the accountant and the internal auditor and any actions they should take to address these issues. Did you understand what ethical issues both of them faced and what are the actions you could take? It is all, just these 2-3 paragraphs will give you a complete picture of the ethical issues. ठीक है. Part A जो है, Part A we'll see a little later. First of all, read ethical issues faced by the accountant and ethical issues faced by the auditor. We have discussed these points. Read it out.
Sir, can you please scroll?
Sure.
Done, sir.
ठीक है, देख लो, टेक योर टाइम.
Sir, discharging of his duty means what, sir?
Performance of his duty.
Okay, sir.
Yes, Shubh.
Sir, in the question itself, it is mentioned that he is on the managing panel. So if the Mr. Franklin is reporting to the management, then it like
Then
it will be not fair. Like he should be report to those charged with governance or to the body that takes care of that
what is the body that
ethical
takes care
ethical
of that?
ethical standard body.
एथिकल स्टैंडर्ड बॉडी, ये कौन सी बॉडी होती है?
नहीं, आपने अभी मतलब जो आपने वीडियो डाला था ना, उसमें ई एथिकल कमेटी या बॉडी का जो आपने नाम लिया था ना, उसको रिपोर्ट नहीं करना चाहिए क्योंकि पहले से मैनेजमेंट में इन्फ्लुएंस है.
See
I
the
think he's talking about IESB.
okay.
Yeah.
The word that I have used in this answer is management committee. I have not used the word management. There's a difference. There are subcommittees of the management, right? In which this person might not be there or should not be there. This is again, understand, this is not a AAA का पेपर है ना.
यस सर.
तो आपका जो आंसर है, when you say management committee, it means a subcommittee in the management of the organization, in which the point is that this person should not be a part of that particular management committee. ठीक है. So committee is a subset of the management है ना. Like you have audit committee, like you have remuneration committee, you could have different committees, right? So he should maybe the audit committee. Audit committee तो mostly includes non-executive directors only, right? तो उसका part. Okay. Are you with me, all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Sure.
sir.
This is one part of the question though. This is not the entire question. Okay. Now let's आगे का देखते हैं. I want someone to read this. मानव, ये procurement cost का पढ़ तो एक बार.
Sure, sir. Hiring company's policy is normally to upgrade systems every 4 years. The cost of the Cutherd division's new system was $5 million. There were additional development costs incurred by the Cutherd division of $100,000, which related to payroll. All of these costs, totaling $5.1 million, have been written off in the statement of P&L of Harding Company in the year ended 31st December 2008. At the year end, the Cutter division's new system is still not yet fully operational because of the incompatibilities with the centralized systems. There are also doubts about the security of the system and potential short-term technological obsolescence.
Okay. So, Herding Company's policy is normally to upgrade systems every 4 years. The cost of the Cutherd division's new system was 5 million. There were additional development costs incurred by the Cutherd division of 1 lakh which related to payroll. All of these costs totaling 5.1 million have been written off in the statement of P&L of holding company in the year ended 31st of December. At the year end, Cutherd division's new system is still not yet fully operational because of the incompatibility with the centralized system. There are also doubts about the security of the system and the potential short-term technological obsolescence. What is what do you mean by potential short-term technological obsolescence? What is technological obsolescence, first of all?
Due to advancement, the technology become outdated.
Technological faults.
Technology is getting outdated. Okay, if the
Yeah.
technology is getting outdated, can we say that it will stop giving you future economic benefits?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes,
Correct.
sir.
Now, if we are saying that the technology is likely to get outdated, they are asking you questions about possible effects of IAS 38 and IAS 36 on the accounting treatment of Cutherd division's procurement system and development cost. Tell me, first of all, should this be capitalized?
1 million should I?
Should be or should not be?
Sir, it should be.
And why are you saying that?
Sir, the new system will give future economic benefits.
Okay. Is that the only way, or are these the only conditions to uh, capitalize an intangible asset? Can you tell me the 4 recognition criteria, all of which should be fulfilled, by the way? Can you tell me those? Open karo IAS 38.
So intangible asset needs to be identifiable.
Uh,
Cost can be reliably measured. There will be future economic benefits from the asset. And then it is used for more than 12 months.
Okay.
And the asset is controlled by the unit.
Okay. Okay. There are 4 conditions, by the way, right? What are these 4 conditions under IAS 38? If I remember it right, the asset is identifiable, owned or controlled by the entity. It will generate future economic benefit for the entity, and the cost of the asset can be reliably measured. Now, see, this development expenditure can be or will be capitalized only if the conditions are met. Is there probable inflow of economic benefits? Tell me. Bolo.
no, sir, because it is not still fully operational.
Because it is still not fully operational. Okay. Karan, what do you think? Now, acha, tell me something. Does this appear like a development expenditure to you?
Yes, sir.
है ना? Development expenditure, if you want to capitalize, there are 6 conditions that need to be fulfilled. Can you repeat those conditions for me? Book open करके बताओ, no problem. Take a minute, open your notes and answer.
So it is technically feasible to complete the intangible asset so that it is available for sale or for use.
Okay.
There's intention to complete and use or sell the intangible asset. There's ability to use or sell the intangible asset. Existence of a market to sell either the asset itself or its output, or
Hmm.
the usefulness of the asset can be demonstrated if it is to be used by the business. And there are adequate technical, financial, and other resources.
Okay. Fair enough. Now tell me which of these conditions are getting fulfilled. Six conditions you mentioned, right? Let me take you to the answer part. I will show you the 6 conditions. You have to tell me whether these conditions are getting fulfilled or not. ठीक है? यहाँ पे देखो 6 conditions दिया है आपको. probable inflow of economic benefit, intention to complete the intangible and use it or sell it, reliable measurement of development cost, adequate resources available to complete, technical feasibility of completion, and expected to be profitable. ठीक है, but ये जो है, whatever these 6 conditions, these have to be fulfilled for you to capitalize the development cost, correct? अब evaluate each of these conditions and tell me, are these getting fulfilled or not? Let's go one by one. Look at the first one, probable inflow of economic benefits. Is that happening?
No, sir.
No,
Why
sir.
not?
No, sir.
Why not? Intention to complete. Is there an intention to complete the asset?
So there is no mention that they will be completing or they are willing to complete and bring it live for the process.
Can you go back to the paragraph?
Sure. देखो,
They upgrade their systems every 4 years, so there will be a intention to complete because it's a practice that they follow, a policy that they have.
okay. See, in this situation, you have to evaluate and nullify. See, अगर आपको prove करना है कि this is an intangible asset, then this is a development cost which is worthy of being capitalized. आपको सारे conditions prove करने पड़ेंगे. But even if you disprove one of them, that means the capitalization is not required. See, there are concerns with attack the problem. If you see, there are concerns with respect to the security of the system, and there is a possibility of short-term technological obsolescence. Hence, it is unlikely that the project will generate future economic benefits. Very clearly, we have established the fact unlikely that the project will generate future economic benefits. ठीक है, the system is incompatible with other systems used by the organization, so technical feasibility is also a problem. Don't you agree?
Yes, sir.
है ना? Technical feasibility is also a problem. Then, owing to above reasons, incorrect to capitalize ना, because आपने दो important conditions को disprove कर दिया. You disproved the fact that uh, there is probable inflow of economic benefits. That is not happening. What is the second problem? The second problem is that there is no technical feasibility. अब दो points अगर disprove कर दिए, then you don't have to sit down and disprove all 6. To showcase that something is not an intangible asset or something is not to be capitalized, you have to disprove. Even if one condition is disproved, that means you don't have to capitalize. But if you want to prove कि capitalize करना है, all 6 will have to be fulfilled. तो there the answer is a more difficult one or a longer one, because आपको और डिटेल में बताना पड़ेगा. Otherwise, a short answer which only says कि you know what, these are the 6 conditions, but technical feasibility is a problem and future economic benefits are a problem. Khatam. Job is done. If 2 conditions are not getting satisfied, there is no question of capitalization, right? So understand how much should be the length of your answer. You cannot just keep on writing. है ना? ये देखो एक बार. ठीक है. Okay. It is incorrect to capitalize. Expensing it off to P&L would be the right option. Disprove 2 points and you are done. है ना? अब और क्या पूछा है? They have asked you explain the possible effect on IAS 36 impairment of assets. अब impairment का क्या रोल है यहाँ पे? See, on each reporting date, the business entity should check whether there are any indicators of impairment present. These indicators could be internal or external indicators, है ना? दोनों में से even if any indicator is present, then you should check for impairment. And the asset, when is it impaired? The asset is said to be impaired when the carrying amount is greater than the recoverable amount. ठीक है? If there is a short-term technological obsolescence here, don't you think it is an external indicator of impairment?
Yes, sir.
है ना? It is an external indicator of impairment. Why? Because there is a proof that there is going to be technological obsolescence. And why do I call it technological obsolescence? Because I believe, because there are other systems coming in the market, apparently, which are far more advanced. So this is going to get outdated very, very soon. So there is an indicator of impairment present, right? On each reporting date, the business entity should evaluate whether any indicators of impairment are present. Could be external, could be internal, and then explain the asset is said to be impaired if the carrying amount is greater than recoverable amount. In this case, short-term technological obsolescence appears like an external indicator. Impairment testing, but impairment testing कब होगा? When the item is capitalized in the books of accounts, right? Asset होगा तो impair होगा. 2 minutes ago, we have arrived at this conclusion that listen, IAS 38 में कैपिटलाइजेशन ही नहीं होगा. इफ कैपिटलाइजेशन ही नहीं होगा तो इम्पेयरमेंट का क्वेश्चन कैसे आएगा? Only an asset is impaired, right? So for impairment to take place, there has to be an asset in the first place in the financial statements. If there is no asset, ठीक है, अगर asset है ही नहीं तो इम्पेयर किसको करेंगे, है ना? So that is how you should frame your answer कि this is the requirement for impairment testing, blah blah blah. But we are concluding after this that there is no requirement to impair because we have not recorded the asset in the first place. ठीक है? Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So that is, एक बार देख लो impairment वाला part. ठीक है?
Okay, sir.
Cool. And then there was the first part of the question. Discuss how the advancement of IT impacts on the ethical responsibilities of the accountant. Do you think that just because there is an advancement in information technology, will it change the ethical responsibilities of the accountant in any way?
No.
No, sir.
No. So that should be the opening point, that just because there are advancements in information technology, the 5 fundamental ethical principles of integrity, objectivity, confidentiality, professional competence and due care, and professional behavior, they still apply. They are still relevant regardless of this advancement. ठीक है? But in terms of when the innovation in IT happens, don't you think it is incumbent on the professional accountant to update his knowledge base and be at par so that you can understand the implications for the client? Right? And naturally, when this happens, see, if he doesn't upgrade himself, then it will make him ineffective in the performance of his duties. There will be lack of professional competence in this case. So वो part highlight करो, and also mention कि the internal controls in the organization will have to be updated. You will have to move from manual controls to system-based controls. Make sense? एक बार
Yes.
देख लो. Part A is a very generic answer. It's not based on any accounting standard. It's not based on, any ethical implications. बहुत ही generic answer है. And it has to be framed in a very generic manner. Cool? Understood?
Yes, sir.
So can you please show the question once?
Okay, but this has got nothing to do with the question. They have also mentioned no requirement to refer to any exhibit.
Yes, sir. For the C1 part, I wanted to see.
Okay.
So can you show the exhibit? So this 5 million will also not be capitalized?
Cost of the Cutherd division's new system. That is exactly what will not be capitalized, no?
Okay, sir.
That is the cost of the new system, and we have just proven that it does not lead to future economic benefits, that there is no technical feasibility. If there is no technical feasibility, it does not lead to future economic benefits. That is why we are not capitalizing that. Right?
Okay, sir.
एंड द डेवलपमेंट कॉस्ट तो बिल्कुल भी कैपिटलाइज नहीं करना है. इवन इफ यू कैपिटलाइज अ सिस्टम इट विल हैव टू गेट, मतलब उसको आपको इम्पेयर करना पड़ेगा इमीडिएटली, बिकॉज यू डोंट सी एनीथिंग हैपनिंग ऑन द होराइजन इन द लॉन्ग टर्म. ठीक है?
Okay, sir.
Perfect. So these are two basic questions that we did with respect to ethics. I would want you to revisit these questions, but not today. Spend today's time and tomorrow's time, whatever you get for the cash flow part, because on Sunday I will be covering consolidated cash flow. And to do that, I will need you to be updated with how a single entity cash flow statement works. Okay.